When you're running the world's largest feral cat eradication program on an inhabited island, there's a lot of ground to cover.
So we're working at scales that we never have before. We're managing around 700 cage traps on the Dudley.
Fortunately, as technology has improved, much of the guesswork has been taken out of the job.
So how do you know you've caught a cat in a trap out here?
Yeah, so all our traps are now fitted with sensors. So all we have to do in the morning is look at our phone.
Okay.
And you can see from the app, it shows the traps that are open, which are in green circles. And our location here with the blue dot, we've got a triggered trap just up in front of us. So it's just up here, let's go.
Marine scientist Paul Jennings started his career on Kangaroo Island looking after the coastal habitats. But after the devastating Black Summer bushfires, he moved inland to help native animals recover. And that led to one of the biggest threats, feral cats.
Yeah, so it looks like a tortoiseshell. It's a pretty uncommon colour pattern, really. We don't see too many of these.
I think sometimes I have it in my head, that sort of ferocious image of a feral cat, but is that pretty typical?
Yeah, so size, it's pretty typical for us here on the Dudley, so we're not seeing too many large cats anymore.
How do you know that's not a domestic cat?
So we use a microchip scanner. We'll also look if it has a collar or displaying domestic tendencies.
Over the last few years, 1,400 feral cats have been removed from the Dudley Peninsula, with around 350 killed during a winter blitz last year. And Paul says as technology and people's skills have improved, the number of other animals getting caught in the traps has dropped by more than 80%.
It's interesting because I've worked on, Landline a long time, so I know the damage feral cats can cause, but we still look into a live cat's eyes, and it can be confronting even to someone like me. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, for me, the data's extremely clear. We know that feral cats predate on over 50 native species on Kangaroo Island. Many of those are threatened and endangered, species like the Kangaroo Island dunnart, bandicoots, little penguins. For me, the choice is clear. We need to remove cats from this island to allow our wildlife to recover and flourish.
And she's 2.52.
Every cat caught is measured,
83 long.
and its stomach contents analysed.
I think that's some of the chicken from the trap.
Their diverse diet is plain to see, with rodents and bugs also commonly found during the roadside procedures.
Yeah, it's a bit of a beetle there.
Very hungry cat.
From national parks and remote coastlines to more than 1,000 residents and farming properties, the Dudley Peninsula is a complex spot for an eradication program. Which is why the team needs the support of landholders, like fifth-generation farmer Ros Wilson. She's among 35 producers who have put traps on their properties.
Oh, look, I was very surprised how many cats they did catch. On the first couple of nights, I think they had 30 traps and we caught 17 cats. It was absolutely quite amazing.
The sensor technology has made it a lot more user-friendly for busy farmers. And Ros says she's definitely noticed the impact on wildlife as cat numbers have declined.
We're certainly seeing a lot more ground nesting birds. We've always had stone curlews here, you'd hear them calling of a night time, but we're seeing them everywhere now, which is really great.
It's not just about bringing back wildlife. At one of the most picturesque sheep properties on the island is another farmer who's got involved in the program. While it's all about wool in here today, Andy Gilfillan makes his money from the meat. And that's where feral cats can cause some major headaches for primary producers, spreading a disease called sarcocystosis, which shows up as white cysts in the muscle of older sheep.
So what impact has the sarco had on your sheep and the access to markets?
You wouldn't probably even notice it if you were having to eat that product, but the meat companies, but one in particular, has refused to take mutton, sheep from Kangaroo Island. Apparently it's about stopping the chain and trimming the sarco flesh out. So they basically said, right, no more Kangaroo Island mutton, finished.
But now that abattoir has started reopening its doors. And Andy Gilfillan reckons that's partly because of the CAP program.
It's massive, it's massive. I think it would be 10 plus years, maybe even more, since we've had access to that particular meatworks, which is a big one.
A new report by the CAT team using scientific modelling has found there are only around 100 to 200 feral cats left on the Dudley Peninsula. But these are the more tricky ones. Enter the island's eradication guru Brenton Florence, who has already helped get rid of feral goats and deer on KI and played a big role in the pig eradication program, which is in its final stages.
Cats are hard. I'd say, I always use the word 100 times harder than everything else I've done, purely because of how smart they are. They're a top-end predator. Their hearing, their smell, their eyesight, their ability to adapt, to survive.
To exploit one of their few weaknesses and lure them out, he's gathered quite the collection of animal sounds.
Curiosity killed the cat, pretty much. They're opportunistic, so what's out there food-wise, but also they've got to check things out.
But it's still a big area to cover on your own.
How do you know where you're going?
With all the technology and the cameras we've got out there, I get what we call a hotspot map. So if you look at this map here, this is information that's come from the camera array. So this is all cats that have been past the camera in the last week.
With 260 cameras set up across the peninsula, that's a lot of clues.
So is information your biggest game changer?
Yeah, technology and the information you can get from it. I can spend more time actually actively trying to remove the animal than actually trying to work out if the animal's around.
What's that?
That one there we've got, I reckon that's a wallaby.
And one thing that's come a long way in helping him see what's out there in the dark is thermal technology.
If you look in this tree here,
What's that one?
you can see that, that's a possum.
Through this lens, possums are the closest animal to feral cats.
What's the first thing you might notice with a cat?
First thing you notice with a cat, it will usually be the face. The face is quite bright, and the tail, the shape of the tail. The tail, when a cat walks, is always down towards the ground and coming back up, where a possum comes out straight.
While he's captured thermal footage of cats on previous hunts, the ferals are increasingly a no-show.
Part of me obviously actually wants to see one on this, but I would imagine it's actually a good thing that we are not seeing it at the moment.
Yeah, you're dead right. That means what we're doing is working.
This year, there are more tools than ever to take on the ferals. The long but leaky exclusion fence, which is meant to keep cats on the rest of the island out, is being fixed up. And restrictions over the use of soft leg hold traps have now been lifted by the state government.
Hey, dogs.
And there's one more weapon Paul's been privately training up, which he now has approval to unleash.
So I've seen a lot of breeds of dogs on Landline, but not this. What are these?
Yeah, so blue-tick hounds are really unusual in Australia. They're predominantly used out of the United States, so the bloodlines have been developed there, specifically bred for trailing game, so things like raccoons, bobcats, mountain lions and bears. So I thought they'd be a perfect breed to put here in Australia to chase our feral cats. Let's go. Yep. Ready? Cat, find.
Paul spent several years honing his skills as a handler and his dog's skills as feral cat trackers.
When they know that they're on a good scent, they make an enormous roar. And then you basically read that roar. It's like they're talking to you about where that cat's been, how long ago that cat was there, and then all the dogs come together and they start to work out the trail for themselves.
So they're obviously on something at the moment.
Yeah, so they've picked up that scent back behind us and now they're working up this creek line.
The dogs all have GPS collars, so Paul can keep track of where they are and recall them. And how do you actually know when they've got a cat?
Yeah, so the type of bark they use when they're trailing is completely different to when they have a cat in the tree. This sounds promising.
The dogs have already found 100 cats on this private property during training,
They're here somewhere.
with Paul capturing this one on his phone.
Oh, good girls, look at that. Big ginger Tom.
Today, though, after a bit of excitement early on, the summer heat makes it much harder for the dogs to follow the scent.
Winter represents the best time for our dogs, and our strike rate was exceptional, over 90%.
This winter, the team wants to throw every tool it has at the cats on the Dudley Peninsula. Latest modelling suggests that would wipe out 95% of the ferals. But to stage an all-out assault, it needs another big injection of funds from governments or the private sector for a project that has already cost $7 million.
That's the main goal, suppress that population to a point that it can't recover. This program is achievable. We think we can do it within 2 to 4 years.
Morning.
Someone who is a big supporter of eradicating not just feral cats but all cats is Mayor Michael Pengilly, whose property Paul Jennings has been training his dogs up on.
I think you've got them all.
Council wants to introduce a last cats policy where no more pet cats are brought onto the island.
Sooner they can get rid of every cat on the island, I hope I live to see it. Environment, agriculture, the whole lot. It's just good.
And that is the ultimate plan, to protect the entire island's renowned wildlife and its livestock by rolling out the eradication program and all the tools that have been refined to the rest of KI, which is more than 10 times bigger.
We've eradicated feral deer on the island. We've almost eradicated the feral pigs. It can be done, you can do anything. And yes, the cats are very smart. We've actually got to be a bit smarter to get them.